Boy, oh boy, things are piping hot in media. It's only January 17th when I sit here and record this. And I saw this thing. I'm scrolling on. This has been a week, to be fully transparent, right? This has been a week, but I wanted to sit back and scroll through YouTube and YouTube TV. One of the things that popped out was actually, no, I was on Twitter when I saw this. Jason Whitlock going at Cam Newton. Now, it was about a year ago, around this time. I'm in New York City. It's Queen P.R.'s birthday. Happy birthday to her. Make sure y'all send her birthday wishes. We'll be back next week. But it was her birthday. And during that time, at this point, she was out with her sisters. And I'm in this rabbit hole because Stephen A. Smith had just ethered Jason Whitlock. A year later, Cam Newton had to do it. Now, Cam Newton is, I saw Jason Whitlock had some things to say about Cam Newton. And one of the things he talked about was Cam Newton's support for Joy Taylor and for Molly Karam. And he went on to talk about that, he was doing that because he'll never step foot on the NFL gridiron again and all these things. And I thought it was just ridiculous. And my thought was, here we go again. Jason Whitlock is somebody, and I tweeted this. Jason Whitlock is somebody who has never been hit in the mouth. And what I mean by that, because I'm not authorizing violence right here. I'm not condoning it. But you could tell sometimes the way people talk, how bold they are and certain things that they say. And it's always personal with him, right? You look at like a lot of these commentators, when they talk about the athletes, it's one thing to talk about their game, how they play, how they are on the field. But it's another thing when you getting real personal. And that's the thing. Anytime you had Stephen A. Smith running a video where he had to apologize to his daughters and his sisters, and he called them a fat piece of shit and everything. I was like, whoa. Now, I've heard a lot of respectful journalists, a lot of people who will give you their shirt off their back. I'm not naming names, but a lot of them said they couldn't stand Jason Whitlock. During the pandemic, he was very, very problematic. With, I should say before that, when Cam Newton was kneeling, when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, he had a nerve to try to reenact things with, Kid from Kid and Play of all people, who later said he regretted it. But, they had that play that out on his show, and Jason Whitlock, as soon as the Joy Taylor news broke, he had to have something to say. He talked about her big rack and her peanut butter complexion. That's why he stayed away from her, because he knew what she was about. And of course, everybody's sitting there like, dude, don't nobody want to be around you. And the thing I love what Cam said is keep the same energy. And he broke down, he said, you was a former athlete, you played high school ball with somebody, but you was never that guy. And I think what's problematic is that people like this always get higher platforms because there's people out there who they speak for. Y'all remember Kevin Samuels and how rude he was? And this isn't me speaking ill of the dead. This is me speaking facts. Y'all remember how rude he was to women on his platform? And he was saying, you need a high value man, but in order to get that, you need to lose some weight and all the crazy stuff he was saying, right? You know what the crazy thing about that is? When you sit back and you look at the way he was acting and the way Kevin Samuels was acting, there were fans of his. People who were fans of his. And I just thought that was ridiculous. But Jason Whitlock, I'm glad, like Cam Newton says, keep that same energy. We'll see what happens at the Super Bowl.
I'm excited to talk more about my background.
Also worked in so many places of media, which you will find out more. Two friends who like wrestling that talk about wrestling. To now, let's start a podcast. And
grassroots style, the way me and Brian have done it. Every opportunity is an opportunity.
Kind of makes me want to step my game up a little bit more just because the space is so oversaturated. Anyone can start a podcast.
I live in New York City, so there's, opportunity everywhere in New York. Like, everyone's doing something. You go to a bar for happy hour, the bartender has a business.
And you apply that same strategy to network. You being very intentional. Find your why. What's the reason? Then do it.
Podcasting allowed me to break out of my comfort zone, to break out of my shell.
This is 6HM Productions.
Before we get started with today's show, I just want to remind you that you can save 10% on your order with Symphony of Balloons, a luxury balloon company that also offers a 360 camera. Just simply mention you heard about them on Breaking Through Glass Ceiling. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, a 6 Heart Media production. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. Now, I said at the beginning, happy birthday to Queen P.R, my lady, the better half, the heart and soul of 6 Heart Media. She'll be back next week with some content, but make sure you check out our most recent Never Have I Ever. Things got a little spicy up in there as we played that game, but it was a lot of fun. Today, I talked about Cam Newton and everything, and, just sitting back as we get ready to go into the year 2025. It's a lot of crazy things, and it's going to be some more things that Queen P.R. and I touch on. But, have a quick, uncomfortable conversation with y'all, right? Wrestling fans and people who aren't wrestling fans now may know of the lady by the name of Jaida Parker. Now, Jaida Parker went viral on World Star Hip Hop because, let's just face it, she fine as hell and she thick, right? But, and then the quote was something like, oh, I need to start watching wrestling again, because before you wasn't used to seeing a light-skinned wrestler that's got a fat ass. Let's call it for what it is, right? Back in the day, we didn't appreciate, and Queen P.R. and her co-host Krista B, those wrestling girls, make sure you check them out on the Revolt Network. They made it clear we didn't appreciate the Jacquelines because WWE was shoving Sable down our throat. Then it was the Trish Stratus. Then it was the Tori Wilsons, the Stacy Keeblers. But they wasn't really, unless, as I got older, I started appreciating the Crystal Marshalls, a little bit more the Laylas and so forth. Now we do appreciate the Naomis, the Bianca Belairs, the Jade Cargills, right? I say all that to say, Jaida Parker, somebody that people have been tuning in to NXT for. And everybody's like, okay, she's the future. Now, she's one of my favorite wrestlers. I put my wrestling hat on. I see a star. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So recently, Jaida Parker got caught liking a tweet, post on Instagram that discussed athletes who transition being able to perform with, women athletes. And the idea, like, people started hating, right? And my thought on this was, a lot of times, public figures, political, social views don't align with yours. Does that mean you feel differently about them? Maybe, maybe not. Jaida Parker's tweet, she followed up that she supports the community. However, she went on to say that she was a college athlete. So the thing that was uncomfortable about the whole thing watching this play out was not only people were upset, oh, my favorite wrestler, oh, she's transphobic. And she was saying that's not the case. My interpretation is she doesn't want to play with athletes who have transitioned on the field, on the same field. Now, here's my thing. Everybody is entitled to feel how they feel. But sometimes certain conversations just cannot be had over the internet. And for Jaida Parker, I would say this wasn't a conversation to have over the internet. you lose more money trying to have the conversation and convince people other than just being quiet. You know, you do some athletes, you'll never know where they stand. And sometimes people get upset about it, and some people don't. There are sometimes, you know, like Beyonce, right? When things got really bad with, you know, the way black people were treated, that's when you start to see some speak out a little bit more. But I remember even during the pandemic and when the NBA had athletes wearing the outfits. I mean, you could put a name on, right? You could put Black Lives Matter in your name. And LeBron James said that didn't align with the way he wanted to support everything. It didn't align with his vision and his message. So he chose to keep his last name James on there. And I understood that. And I think it's crazy that a lot of times we look at these athletes like that and we criticize. And, you know, but I do think it's also crazy that people are trying to have these conversations via 280 characters. You just can't. Like I said, my advice to Jaida Parker would be, don't tweet. You know, sometimes we just don't need to be involved in the group chat, you know? Now, let me put myself out there for a little bit, real quick. In previous relationships, I dealt with a lot of jealousy, right? So to combat that, I didn't like a lot of posts. I would see it. I just didn't hit the like button. You keep scrolling. I don't deal with that anymore. But like, you know, you're scrolling on Instagram or scrolling on Twitter, well, more so Instagram, right? I can see if it's me, somebody that me and Queen P.R. each follow, I can see what she liked and vice versa. But there's no issue. Like, she's going to like a picture with a woman with their cheeks out and a picture with a man with their shirt off. It's going to happen. Doesn't change what's going on at home, right? And vice versa. So, but when you start liking certain things or political views or different messaging, that's when people say, uh-oh, you know, like somebody talked about science and Stone Cold Steve Austin put the clown emoji. So now people are looking at Stone Cold like, oh, so you don't believe in science. He already said he don't believe in CTE. So now people start to think, what other things are you thinking? Right? So I think that's just the thing. Like sometimes you just don't like nothing, don't say nothing. If you want to have those conversations in a healthy dialogue, fine. But type in behind the keyboard, just not the way to do it. It's just not the way. I'm going to take a quick break as I got a couple of sponsors who have words for you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support this podcast by wearing a t-shirt, whether it's the one that says breaking through glass ceilings or the one that says no ceilings above success, simply go to foryourwear.com. Also, you can support some of your other favorite podcasts and content creators, including Those Wrestling Girls, Seahawk, and the Wrestling Club. And you can support some of your favorite independent wrestlers, including Jay Bougie, Trisha Dora, Chaz the Dawn. Shoot, all the Pure Ignorance is on there. So go on foryourwear.com, go under personalities, you'll find Brian H. Waters, and buy a t-shirt. And remember, I'll give you a shout out on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, are you in the gym every week? Are you looking to kind of keep yourself cool while you work up a nasty sweat? Well, I got the best thing for you. Cooling bands, bandanas, cooling towels, and so much more. Go to Vertical Athletics, get your favorite team in MLS or MLB. Or guess what? Now they have a custom option so you can upload your own logo and you can save 10% at checkout when you enter the code Brian H. Waters. Go to verticalathletics.com, use the code Brian H. Waters to save 10% on some of your best cooling gear. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. So, you know what time it is before we get out of here this weekend? I'm not nervous. This weekend, the Baltimore Ravens in the main event of the divisional round playoffs will travel to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills. And boy, oh boy, am I not excited. I said last week, or the last time I did this show, last time I talked about the Ravens, I said Lamar Jackson is going to have one of those paths to greatness, right? And you can't just You can't just go to the Super Bowl with the easy path. It's not respected. Let's call it what it is, right? And then it's the NFL's no path that's easy. I mean, we saw that the Washington Commanders, they advanced. We saw the Los Angeles Rams, who started off, I believe, like 1-4 or something like that, take out the almighty Minnesota Vikings, who was like 15-2. So, or maybe they was 14-2, 3, something, whatever. Bottom line is, it's going to be very intense. Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Two guys who people have been back and forth. Who's the MVP? You're the MVP. No, you're the MVP. And we don't know. We don't know who the MVP is. I mean, it all should be Lamar Jackson. Of course, I'm going to root for my guy, but it hasn't been announced yet. And he took out the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, all before the narrative was Lamar Jackson can't get it done against Pittsburgh. Lamar Jackson doesn't play well against Pittsburgh. He's only beat Pittsburgh once, and guess what? He did it 2 times within 6 weeks. That's a shift. Now, can he get it done in the playoffs, right? That's what they've been saying. Well, his first few playoff games, I believe, was like 1-3. Now he's like 2-1 of the last 3, something like that. So there's been a shift. And there's been a shift in the Baltimore Ravens. Ever since the bye week, they have hammering teams. They've been beating teams by a lot. And I think it's going to be the same thing. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to get a huge, heavy dose of Derrick Henry. I believe John Harbaugh knows, like, okay, I got to get it done. I got to be smart. I got to get this done. I got to win another Super Bowl. You have a job that long. He's been in Baltimore since 2008. So when you keep a job that long, there's no excuses. 18 seasons, right? There's no excuses. There's no, well, he's going to make it, whatever. No. You have to win multiple Super Bowls. Let's call it for what it is. Is you win one, that's fine. That's great. But now you have a new era. You have a roster built to do it. And I believe they're going to get it done. Now, I said this before, Joe Flacco, he had to go through a young up-and-comer Andrew Luck, who was also bringing in the Indianapolis Colts, a team that used to reside here in Baltimore. That was a legacy thing. Baltimore finally put the Colts behind them because en route, they would have more Super Bowls, right? Then he had to take down the almighty Peyton Manning, a team that destroyed them earlier, just maybe 7 weeks prior, right? So he took down Peyton Manning. And then they had to go back to Foxborough, and avenge the New England Patriots. And then it was the Harbaugh Bowl. So we'll see how the story plays out, but right now it's fitting the narrative. Take out the Pittsburgh Steelers. Take out the other person who people are calling for MVP, the guy they said the only team that could beat Patrick Mahomes because they did it earlier. Now, again, the Ravens have shifted. Everybody keeps saying Buffalo got better since, but guess what? So have the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm excited, folks. I believe they will get it done. And I think it's going to be a 2-touchdown win. I do. I think it's going to be a 2-touchdown win. I think the Ravens win this one. And next week, we will be on edge and nervous, but they will be going to the AFC Championship game to face I got to say Kansas City. I'm picking Kansas City to win. As much as I would love Houston to win, it's going to be cold probably. So I'm picking them to win. But ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this week's episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Thank you for joining me. Shout out to my barber too. Shout out to Shelly Webb, who hooked me up as always. But make sure you remember, do not let anyone place a ceiling above your success. So long, everyone. Are you a podcaster who is looking to share clips from your show in the simplest way possible? Well, I have the best solution, and that's Opus Clip. Opus Clip allows you to take the link to your show, upload it, and then they will clip off some of the best moments. And it allows you to edit it, change the captions, change the colors, and they also give you a viral score so you know which clip can potentially generate more buzz for your show. So if you're looking to do that, click the link in the bio, sign up for Opus Clip, and go viral with some of the best content from your show.